While sleeping, a bright light hits the eyelids of Maractus. The light is so bright that it burns away the nightmare Maractus was having about its initial abandonment. Now awake, Maractus drowsily tries to open its eyes, but the light of the sun is too great. To combat this, Maractus pulls up its left arm to its eyes and uses it to block the light so it can open its eyes. This time, the shade coming from its arm is just enough to allow Maractus to open its eyes fully. Still planted in the sand, Maractus uses Ingrain to search for water below. After a few seconds, Maractus senses something from deep under the sand and pulls its roots back inside itself, then pushes itself out of the sand, staggering a little on the uneven ground. After a few seconds of waiting, a small amount of water blobs its way to the surface of the sand. Maractus, surprised by how little was actually there, dips down to take a drink of water. However, as Maractus' face gets close to the water, a sudden blast of water shoots out from the sand and into Maractus' face, knocking it off its feet. Maractus, taken aback and borderline irritated, hops back onto its feet. Maractus finally gets that drink it deserves and walks over to one of the oran berries it saved for its breakfast. Quickly, Maractus shoves the berry into its mouth, gobbling it up furiously in an attempt to calm itself down from the water incident. Once eaten, Maractus sighs heavily. Suddenly, an image flashes inside its head, an image of the water, the way it shot out of the ground. Water gun! Maractus thought to itself. Maractus takes a really deep breath and arched itself backwards. It then motions forwards with a huge burst of air, but instead of water coming out, it instead fires a round of seeds. Water gun fell out of the question to Maractus. It knows that. Not only would it be impressive that it learned how to use a water-type move, but it would also be a weak move. Maractus wants to be able to use a move that's both impressive and useful, but Water Gun just isn't strong enough these days. Not with moves like Water Pulse and Aqua Jet. Thinking more on water-type moves, Maractus decides to try out a couple of moves. Unfortunately, Maractus doesn't actually know how these moves work, so it struggled. First up was Aqua Jet. Maractus understood that Aqua Jet was a move all about speed, so it tried running as fast as it could before leaping into the air. The most this got Maractus was a face full of sand, as it just flopped out of the sky, diving into the sand face first. Next up was Water Pulse. Maractus first concentrated energy into its grassy palms in hopes of creating some sort of ball of energy. But all that energy never went anywhere. It didn't even move into its hands. After another 10 minutes of concentrating energy, Maractus threw its hands up in defeat. Water moves felt impossible to it right now. Water Gun, Aqua Jet and Water Pulse just didn't work. Maractus kept thinking up ideas. It knew that some Maractus could learn Drain Punch, but it knew that wouldn't be enough to impress any trainers. It's a surprisingly weak move that steals the energy from the opponent in order to heal the user. It might be useful, but it's just not enough. Throat Chop, Spikes, Sunny Day, Poison Jab and even Aerial Ace. None of those moves would be able to impress. In frustration, Maractus punches the air as hard as it could. During this motion, a strange purple spark whizzed up Maractus' arm. Surprised, Maractus quickly punches the air again, then again, and once again. Maractus couldn't seem to get the same result. Perhaps it was nothing, perhaps it never even happened. Fed up, Maractus flops onto the hot sand. The defeated and deflated Maractus thinks about its current moves. Bullet Seed, Pin Missile, Ingrain, and Worry Seed. Bullet Seed and Pin Missile could become many different moves, such as Water Gun, Poison Sting, or even Dragon Darts. Ingrain is helpful in survival situations, but if it learns some crazy impressive move and is taken in by a trainer, it won't need Ingrain anymore. Warrior Seed was a strange one. The entire point of the move is to cause itself or its allies so much anxiety that they couldn't fall asleep from moves like Spore or Hypnosis. But was this really even needed? Maractus is so worried about not finding a new trainer that it struggles to sleep soundly anyway, and it has no allies, so what would be the point in it? There aren't a whole lot of moves that Worry Seed could turn into with training, so maybe it would be best to just forget the move altogether and replace it with the new impossible move. Maractus pushes itself off of the ground and looks up at the sky. It's around noon now, so Maractus grabs itself another Oranberry and slowly nibbles at it. Maractus is trying to find inspiration in everything, so it believes there to be some inspiration in the complex flavours of the berry. Nibbling and tasting every aspect of the berry, Maractus gets bored and scoffs the last bit of it. Once again determined and revitalised, Maractus hops back to its feet and thinks. It thinks and thinks until it realises that the closest it's gotten so far is the strange spark flying across its hand as it punched the air. Maractus continues that train of thought by punching the air with both hands one at a time. A quick jab. After a while, Maractus gets tired and frustrated that it's not working. Either way, a punch like that would probably end up turning into poison jab. Maractus can feel its frustration welling up inside itself, and notices that this is the same sensation it felt when it noticed the purple sparks from before. Maractus concentrates on this feeling, the feeling of frustration or abandonment, and the potential miserable life it would lead if it was left here all alone. Snapping, Maractus curls back its arm and punches straight forward with all its might. As it does this, the purple sparks from before appear and grow in size and power, becoming close to an actual move. Noticing that it's on the right track, Maractus takes a step back and thinks about what the move could be. The best conclusion it can come to is Thunder Punch, an incredible electric type move that is sure to keep flying types at bay. The only thing that keeps catching Maractus off guard is that the electricity is purple and not yellow or blue, like most electric coming from those moves. Maractus begins practicing with this new potential move, focusing on its difficult thoughts linked to abandonment and ignorance. Over time, the move grew stronger and stronger. The electrical energy now envelops Maractus' entire arm, and sometimes shoots off a little bit. This was strange, but at least there was something new coming from this. Just to make sure what it was doing was actually a new move, Maractus tried to use Worry Seed. It even focused hard on its own anxieties, but wasn't able to perform the move. Filled with joy and excitement, Maractus screamed out. Finally, the cactus Pokemon was getting somewhere. In order to perfect this move, Maractus knew it had to dig deep into its feelings. Maractus fought hard, right down to the very core. Its fear of abandonment, its sadness and grief, the pure disgust many people felt from Maractus. Not just this Maractus, but about the species in general. These Pokemon were often thought of as weak and pointless with little in the way of stats and move pools. All this anger and hatred, this grief and disgust, this is what Maractus was holding in this entire time. Even back when it was with its trainer, it only used Maractus against weaker water types, but no more. Maractus won't have these thoughts ever again. No one is going to make Maractus feel abandoned and pointless ever again. With all these emotions gathering around, Maractus breathes deeply and exhales a deep sigh of anguish. Then it arches back and throws one more punch, as hard as it could. This punch was different though. The sparks of purple grew into a clawed hand. that then enveloped Maractus' hand and balled itself into a fist. It was Shadow Punch. Once the apex of the punch was complete, a vibration pulsated throughout the air, shifting the sand around Maractus. They did it! Maractus actually learned a move that no other Maractus has ever been able to learn. Excited, Maractus punches the air with both hands multiple times, making Shadow Punch accessible to both hands with as much power as each other. Maractus looks at both its hands and grins. It knows that it's time to walk back into town and show off. Maractus knows without a shadow of a doubt that it will never again be pushed off to the side, and the uniqueness of this new move will make it useful in more battles. A move super effective against ghost and psychic types. A move that never misses. This is it. The chance Maractus was looking for.